The state, like, yes.
Who your favorite student at City is.
Yeah, exactly. Your Honor, opposing counsel, may it please the court. It has been said that money is the root of all evil. And in this case, it was a desire for money that poisoned the roots of the Emerson family tree. Devin Emerson is guilty. He is guilty of armed robbery in the first degree, arson in the second, and murder in the first. Throughout today's proceedings, we have proved to you, beyond any reasonable doubt, that Devin Emerson killed Lois May Alcott, his own Aunt May, for financial gain. But to understand why, we need to go back to the beginning. Emerson grew up with a dead mother and a disconnected father who walked out on him at age 16. When he returned to Brook Farm at age 20, he latched on to his only living relative. He planted himself in the Ralph Jr. house and has lived there rent-free ever since, while his neighbor, Jalen Whitman, pays $500 a month. Emerson can't hold a job, and in the weeks leading up to the murder, lost his most recent one. So you see, Emerson was $35,000 in debt, and on his own had no way to pay it off. So his debt was transferred to a Chicago area developer by the name of Beatty Weiss. Weiss knew a potential gold mine when he heard of one. The 850 rolling acres of the Emerson estate had immense value, but Lois May Alcott had always been adamantly unwilling to sell. Thus, a plan began to form. On the morning of October 15th, 2017, Emerson and his Aunt May attended the church together. After the service, Emerson walked in on Mel Herman and Lois May Alcott counting the weekly collection money, as they do every single week. Emerson took note of the large bundle of cash that they were counting. Later that afternoon, Whitman and Emerson had planned a cookout. In preparation for this, Emerson picked out a half-gallon container of lighter fluid, despite Whitman's protestations that they did not need nearly that much. After the cookout, Emerson revealed to Whitman that he was in need of money, and so Whitman offered him $55, a paltry sum in comparison to the $35,000 that Emerson now owed to Beatty Weiss. So, Emerson had no choice but to turn to the very last source of revenue, his dear old Aunt May. At 6:30, he goes inside her house, fully aware that asking for money will get him nowhere, that words will not be enough. It is 6:55 when Mel Herman sees someone leaving the house carrying something. And just a few minutes later, when Emerson tells Whitman that Lois May, a lifelong Cubs fan, does not want to watch the game and will not be joining them. Emerson as well, filled with the guilt of what he has just done, goes back to the Ralph Jr. house, church collection money, and Aunt May's purse in hand. Therefore, it is no surprise that when Sydney Alcott Walden returned to set things right with Lois May, she did not answer her door. She lay inside, dead. It was approximately 7:10, just a few minutes after the Cubs' game began, when Mel Herman smelled something burning. It was Lois May's purse, found the next day on the burn pile, and not where it should have been, but exactly where Emerson had placed it. Emerson, loans now paid off but still in desperate need of cash, had stolen the money he knew was in Aunt May's possession. Needing to dispose of the evidence, he threw the purse onto the burn pile. At 7:40, Emerson called Weiss to tell him that the job was done. It is the prosecution's theory that Weiss, realizing that all the evidence was still out in the open, instructed Emerson to burn the Emerson property to the ground, lest the plans they had so carefully executed go up in flames themselves. The prosecution bears the burden of proof today, to prove to you that Devin Emerson is guilty of armed robbery when he stole the church collection money, to prove to you that Devin Emerson is guilty of murder when he killed Lois May with a frying pan. To prove to you that Devin Emerson is guilty of arson when he burned his childhood home to the ground. We have met this burden. Emerson had motive, the forgiving of his $35,000 debt. Emerson had opportunity. He is unaccounted for in the hours leading up to the 911 call. And Emerson had intent to cause harm. Emerson willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought committed the crimes he stands accused of. It is for these reasons that we ask you to find the defendant, Devin Emerson, guilty.